welcome to the Formula Masters China Series 2014 from Inje Stadium in South Korea. Coming up in the show today, we'll show you why exactly this series is the perfect development program for young drivers and why these guys are destined to be the stars of tomorrow. We'll catch up with all the action from last time out in Shanghai, and we'll see this unusual track up close with Hong Kong driver Ronald Hu. But it's a holiday weekend here in Korea, and we've got 4 races instead of 3, so even more action than usual. Global sports stars often appear to come out of nowhere, but in the case of motor racing, it's often the result of years of hard work. So let's take a closer look at what it takes to become a racing star and how Formula Masters China Series can help these young drivers achieve their goals.
One of the great things about junior Formula, like Formula Master China Series, is after 1 year, the driver and his family will know whether he's really got what it takes.
There's drivers from all over the world here, from Australia, South Africa, China, from all over the world. So it's a great place to get young drivers together to compete against each other. And Formula Master gives them a great car, a good engine combination, a good series with professional teams to show what they can do in a very good racing car.
Discipline is a very important quality. I think if you have discipline and passion, I think those are 2 qualities which can drive you to success in the sport.
Number 1, they've got to have a basic talent, and normally we can tell within a day's testing. Secondly, they've got to have focus and determination.
You have to be fit. You have to be able to drive the car in the race, compete with the heat.
Dealing with pressure is a huge element of the sport.
Same in any competitive sport. To win, you have to be the best, not just in one discipline, in many different areas of the sport, and that's how you will ultimately be successful.
That's the role, I think, of a junior Formula, is to develop the drivers, but also so the drivers can understand whether they really are Formula One material.
I mean, Formula One is just it's getting harder and harder to get a seat in Formula One. But I think every driver now knows that that's not the only target. I mean, you can have a fantastic professional career in many different forms of sport.
There are several drivers on the grid who will be professional drivers. Not necessarily in Formula One, but now drivers make a career in sports cars, LMP, GT.
The training you get at single-seater level makes it easy to jump into touring car or GTs because the cornering speeds are much higher in these cars. And you know, these kids are just getting the GTs and straight away are on the pace. So I think even Matthew Solomon did a great job in the AMG Mercedes last year.
And that's one of the great things about this championship is you get the direct line to the Audi LMS Cup and Porsche Carrera Cup and Lamborghini Super Trofeo through the Volkswagen Group. So drivers who are looking at a junior Formula, Formula One is the dream, but nowadays it's almost an impossible dream. So you can see, but I can still become a professional driver and be paid for what I like doing through Formula Masters and going on to GT racing.
Welcome back to Inje Stadium. Located up in the mountain and just a few kilometers across the border from North Korea, the 20-turn circuit was open last year and is sure to be providing a new exciting challenge for the drivers. Let's take a closer look at the track now as we take a lap with Ronald Hu.
Hi everyone, I'm Ronald Wu from Zen Motorsport, and this is how you do a lap of the Inje circuit. So you come from the main straight, you brake after you turn into the corner, down 2 gears, and once you're at the bottom of the hill, you go flat out and carry as much speed as possible. Up the hill, you go to a blind braking point, you brake, try not to lock up the brakes, you turn in and you try to go full throttle as soon as possible. And you go wide for turn 5, you brake, try not to go wide, and then you go straight on the throttle, but not to lose the line for the next corner because it's flat out and the exit is crucial. So after you hit this corner, you're just waiting for the next corner, you prepare the braking, you press the brake, you turn, as soon as you hit the apex, it's full throttle. and then you go over the curb, carry as much speed, brake down to second gear. The next sequence of corners is very tough, the toughest part of the circuit, because you make one mistake on one corner and it will compromise the whole section. And then the next one is just to lift, avoid the oversteer, and as soon as the car sets, you go full throttle. And then you come to the hairpin. Make sure you try to get the car to brake in a straight line, aim towards the apex, down to second gear, turn, and as soon as you turn, the car sets, you floor the throttle, and then flat out through the next corner. You try to prepare for the last corner, try to brake straight, light dab of the brakes, downshift one gear, and as soon as you're over the bump, you're back on full throttle, and there you try to be as smooth as with the steering as possible to get the good exit, and that's how you do one lap.
Before we get into all the action here, let's bring you up to date with the series so far with a look back at Shanghai last time out.
In the first race in Shanghai, James Munro led from teammate Dan Wells. Aston Hare had cracked the top three on the grid, but Matt Solomon went past him early on. These two then had a tremendous battle throughout, with Hare regaining third spot. But Solomon was able to go past the South African later in the race and held him off until the end. So 3 wins from 3 from Munro, with Wells in second and Solomon in third. In race 5, Munro once again led from the front, while Dan Wells snuck past Solomon on the inside of T1 to go into second. Yinhai Tao then went past Solomon, with the Chinese driver going up into third position. Aston Hare again battled past Solomon, but Solomon hit right back and later went past Yinhai Tao to get back on the podium. So an identical top 3, with Munro continuing his win streak from Wells in second and Solomon in third. There was more of the same from the Kiwi whiz kid in race 6, with Munro leading early on from Wells, Solomon and Hare. Matt Solomon found a way past Dan Wells into turn 14 on the first lap, and Aston Hare also went past him later in the race, with the South African notching his first podium of the season, from Solomon in second and Munro once again in first.
My name's James Munro. I'm from New Zealand. I'm here to get more experience on my way to becoming New Zealand's first Formula 1 driver for 30 years.
Hello and welcome back. Here with me is Mark Dreyer again. Hello, Mark.
Hi, thanks. It's great to be here.
So, what do we have in store this weekend?
Well, as usual, we have the 3 races. We have 1 sprint and 2 longer races. But we also have a makeup race from Zhuhai, which was rained out earlier in the season, if you remember. They're rerunning that race again here, so there are going to be a ton of championship points on offer here.
What are you looking forward to the most?
Well, for me, it's all about seeing how these young drivers here in Asia continue to develop. We saw in the feature earlier in the show that it's possible to go from racing in this part of the world right to the very, very top. Daniel Ricciardo was in the Formula BMW Asia Series in 2006, and he's now one of the top names in global motorsport, having just won the Canadian F1 Grand Prix a few months ago. That really shows you how this series can develop these young drivers, but more than that, it can create this motorsport culture here in Asia.
Okay, let's talk about this race that's coming up. We had a sensational result in qualifying, didn't we?
That's right. Matt Solomon looked to be away and clear in pole position, but his fastest lap had actually exceeded the track limit, so that was taken away from him by the stewards. His second fastest lap was just 0.03 of a second faster than James Munro in second place. So a sensational battle between those two, and this is Solomon's first pole position of the season. And the start is going to be even more important at this circuit, because overtaking, perhaps the hardest circuit of the year in terms of overtaking here. So it's going to be very, very crucial for these guys at the start.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic race. How do the rest of the cars line up?
Well, behind Solomon and Munro on the front row of the grid, we have Dan Wells in third, Anderson Martono in fourth. Great result from the Meritus driver there. The top Chinese driver is Pu Junjun. He starts in 6th position, followed by 2 Star Racing Academy drivers on the 4th row of the grid, Yuan Bo and Bao Jinlong. And just a quick word for poor old Mandla Mdekane, who starts in 14th position. It took him 3 days to get from his native South Africa here. He had cancelled flights and all sorts of turbulence and nonsense going on there. So he only arrived at the track 1 hour before qualifying, so he was still getting used to the car while all the others were racing around. So that's perhaps why he starts towards the back of the grid today.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Let's go straight to the action.
And the red lights go out in Inje, and Matt Solomon gets away nicely in pole position alongside James Munro. Munro looking to challenge into that first corner. He's going to take him into T1. Munro leads from Solomon and Wells. Then comes Martono and Swanepoel. On board with Matt Swanepoel in 5th position here now, coming into T4. Oh, and he's been hit. That's Pu Junjin on the track, and I think Yuenbo might have been involved as well. Out comes the safety car after that. It'll take a while to clean up that mess. That's Bao Jinlong who's coming to the pits, and you can see he's got a red chassis. He's had to borrow that from Meritus after a fire in qualifying to go with his orange Zen car. That drew him a penalty on the grid. And Pu Junjin getting some repairs done to his nose. There's front wing after that crash that he had on the track. Well, racing once again, here we are. Munro in the front from Solomon. Dan Wells in 3rd. Wells looking to go around the outside of Matt Solomon. A bold move, but it's worked. Wells up into 2nd. And 3 cars looking to pass Ronald Wu, including Akhil Rabindra, who qualified down in 10th position. He's on a charge. On board with Rabindra now, sizing up Dharma Hutomo in the Humpers car ahead of him. He's gone through on the inside. Rabindra up into 4th place now. That's Bao Jinlong spinning at the top of the track there, and he looks to be stranded on the track. He's not moving. So the red flag after that crash will bring things to a premature close, and the results will stand as they were, with James Munro winning again from Dan Wells and Matt Solomon, and Akhil Rabindra up in 4th position.
This is the best race for you so far this season. What was the difference for you today?
Well, it was a good race. I didn't have a very good start. I mean, I cribbed like all the other racers, but towards the middle half, I overtook about 3 cars. And I think about 2 cars had an incident on the track, so that helped me move forward. I'm really looking forward to the next race and coming up on the podium.
So confirmation now of the first race in Inje. James Munro wins again from Dan Wells and Solomon, and Rabindra Hutomo and Iriwan all performing well in 4th, 5th and 6th. 13 of the 15 cars finishing with Yuenbo and Matt Swanepoel unable to complete the race.
Hi, my name is Akhil Rabindra. I'm from India. I've conquered Indian motorsport, and here I'm in Asia to give it a bang. Next step, east or west, I'm going to give it my best. Watch out.
Another dominant performance by James Munro. The fastest lap in the last race means he's on pole again right now. Mark, what's his secret?
Well, Viviana, I was talking to James, who's alongside me here just a moment ago, and he was saying that although he's never driven here before, he was able to look at the driver notes from Akash Nandi, who was racing here with the KCMG team last year and was one of the top drivers in last year's series. So that has provided him with some helpful information, but really I think it's just his natural talent.
Well, whatever it is, I think it's working. Talk us through the rest of the grid.
Well, the top 3, we have some familiar faces: James Munro, Matt Solomon and Dan Wells. The next 3 drivers are some names that aren't necessarily quite as high, but they've all had great performances in the last race to get up there. Akhil Rabindra goes in 4th, Hong Kong driver Ronald Wu goes in 5th, and young Indonesian Dharma Hutomo starts in 6th position on the grid. It is, as you said, based on the fastest lap times from the first race of the weekend. So Matt Swanepoel and Yuenbo start at the back because they, of course, crashed early on in that opening race of the weekend and weren't able to record a lap.
Thanks, Mark. Let's go straight to the race.
It's go time in Inje for race 8, and James Munro back on pole. Looks to have made a bit of a stumble at the start there. That's going to perhaps open the door for Matt Solomon coming through on the inside into the lead in turn 1. Then comes Wells, then Ronald Wu, who nips past Akhil Rabindra at the start. But Solomon ahead of James Munro, as you can see. The car's now bunching up around this hairpin turn 4. Oh, and one of the Zen cars getting a bump from Anderson Martono. That is Yin Hai Tao, who looks to have spun out. Just take a look at this replay. Here he is. Yeah, definitely gets a bash there. You don't often see that, but certainly helping the marshals out. Jin coming into the pits with the exact same problem he had in the earlier race, not having the best of luck there, as his crew will have to replace his front wing on the left-hand side. On board now with Yuenbo trying to size up Matt Swanepoel. Pulls wide and he's going to blow past him on this long straight. Fantastic driving from the Chinese driver. And you can see Yin Haitao's car still there on the inside of that hairpin as Mandla Mdekane goes past Hua Miao. And that is the number 10 car of Akhil Rabindra. Pretty significant damage to the back of his car. That will end his race. And one of the Meritus cars getting in the grass there. No, in fact, that's Bao Jinlong with his borrowed Meritus red chassis on his Zen car. Back with the leaders now, it's Solomon, Munro, Wells, Wu, Hutomo, and someone exploring the outer boundaries of the track. That looks to be Jin. He's going to lose a significant amount of space there. So Matt Solomon comes around for his maiden win of the season. He will be ecstatic. He wins from James Monroe and Dan Wells completing the podium.
It's just got a fantastic start. Boys gave me an amazing car. We just did a few things with the setup and it was amazing. Pulled nearly 3 seconds from James and yeah, it was good. I think this is where our championship starts.
So confirmation of Matt Solomon's win as he closes the gap on the series leader James Monroe. Good results from Donald Wu in 4th place there as well. Once again, 2 of the cars unable to finish the race this time, Akhil Rabindra and Yin Haitao.
I'm Matt Solomon and I'm determined to be Hong Kong's first world champion.
Well, we're straight back to the action for race 3 here in Korea. Mark, how did the cars line up?
Well, Viviana, the starting positions for this race are made up from the second qualifying session from earlier in the weekend. Beside me here on pole position, a familiar face, James Monroe. He's in the top spot once again, looking to extend his lead at the series. Alongside him is his teammate Dan Wells. He's in 2nd position. Then down in P3 is Matt Solomon. He, of course, won yesterday. Fantastic win, his debut win of the series. In 4th position here, Anderson Martono. He's been showing pretty good pace all weekend long. And just a quick note, some of the cars at the back of the grid. Bao Jinlong in 14th position. He had a penalty for borrowing the red Meritus chassis to put on his orange Zen car. And just in 15th position, Yuenbo penalised 10 positions on the grid for unnecessarily aggressive driving earlier in the weekend.
Well, we're straight to the action, and joining me now is Dominic Linker, Director of Motorsport Volkswagen Group China. Dominic, we're halfway through the year now, and what are your thoughts so far?
Here, the 3rd race now in Korea, we have a tremendous battle up in front. We normally see 3 people fighting for pole, and they have a changing position on that, so we see fierce fighting. We also see the Chinese coming up. We have this weekend also 5th place there, so yeah, I think people enjoy it, we love it. We do develop the drivers, and we are successful with it.
That's great, thanks Dominic.
And the field is away, but Ronald Wu in 8th there, stalls on the grid, disaster for him. And that's Akhil Rabindra starting from pit lane after he stalled on the grid for the warm-up lap. And look how close they are together early in race 9 here. And Munro and Wells very close together. Munro going wide, too wide, he's into the fence. That's going to leave Wells and Solomon out in front, followed by Anderson Martono in 3rd. Matt Swanepoel spins coming down the hill into the home straight. Fortunately, he manages to reverse off the track there as the other cars come through, looking to get back on to rejoin the action. But look out, here's Rabindra! Oh! Well, that's Rabindra being taken away from the scene. Swanepoel has already walked away. And just check out this replay. Swanepoel is a very lucky boy. Well, we're back to racing after that incident, and we're hearing that Dan Wells might have been crawling at the front. And if that is confirmed, it's going to be a 30-second penalty. So Solomon looking in good shape right now. on board with Chinese driver Pu Junjin here. Oh, he's overcooked it. He's in the fringe. It's all happening today. And Bao Jinlong looking for a way past Yuan Bo, but he's done too much. Spinning out, and that could be in a dangerous position as well. Well, it looks like he's going to rejoin the action here. So Wells celebrates as he crosses the line, but it's going to be Solomon with the win from Martono and Hutomo joining him on the podium.
Are you aware of Dan's penalty during the race?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I was lining up on my grid box and I saw him rolling, so I said, okay, you know, that has to be a penalty. So I knew, you know, just had to stay in second, no risk, save the tires for the next race, you know, and yeah, it will fall into our hands, and it has. So 2 wins in a row. Yeah, I can't really complain.
I just had a good start. I mean, I started 10th. We were struggling in the beginning, but towards the end I recovered, and yeah, here I am in the podium.
So a refreshingly different list there, with 2 new boys on the podium, followed by 3 Chinese drivers and Sena Iriwan from Indonesia. And it's not often that you see James Munro at the bottom of the classification.
Hello, my name is Dan Wells and I'm racing in the 2014 Formula Master China Series, and I'm looking to win the championship this year.
So Mark, plenty of crashes in that last race, and we've just heard that the final race of the weekend has been postponed.
That's right. Well, we're standing here, as you can see, outside the KCMG garage, and they would have had the top 3 cars on the grid for that rescheduled race from Zhuhai, which was rained out, as we mentioned, earlier in the year. But 2 of their cars unable to line up because of the damage that they sustained, despite their best efforts to try and get James Munro's car ready in time. 3 other cars on the grid also can't line up, so the stewards really had no choice but to postpone this race once again.
Now, before we go, let's take a look at the move of the weekend in our Masters Pass.
Today's highlight comes from Dan Wells, who proves you don't always have to take the inside line to pass someone. You can also go around on the outside. Here he is passing Matt Solomon in our Masters Pass. So this is how it looks after 3 race weekends of the year. James Munro with 120 points in first. Matt Solomon closing in second with 92. Dan Wells in third. And KCMG out in front, 191 from Eurasia and Hampus.
Another dramatic weekend with plenty of thrills and spills. James Munro remains in the series lead, but Matt Solomon is now hot in his heels. We'll see you all soon in Malaysia.